Hello, good evening. Aha, he lives. All right, one second. All right, I have this channel set for push to talk. I don't know if that's what you use, but I hope so. You're talking right now, which is a good sign. Maybe I took it off. I can't remember. My players were complaining about it, but nah, it's okay. If you're talking right now, that means I took it off. You can lock the channel so it'll only let people in. I think I took it off just in case people call in. All right. One second here. Yeah, I'm a little behind. The guy at Spectrum had to. All right, almost there.
Alrighty.
All right, I think I'm good.
Alright.
Unfortunately, of course, I didn't have time because of the whole internet fiasco. I didn't set up the webcam, but if you have a good time, you're definitely welcome back. I'll have it set up.
Alright, man, no worries. I should be all set up whenever we get something like that in line.
Absolutely. All right, so here we are. Here we are with my new friend Tracken. He's got, I don't know. You just hit affiliate, right, man?
Yeah, a couple maybe a month or so ago.
Nice. How's that treating you?
It's gone pretty well so far. I've got a nice community of folks that I know somewhat personally, and then others that just stop by. They're nice folks.
Well, that's awesome. So what do you mostly do on your channel? I mean, besides
Um,
tabletop goodness.
hmm. Right now, I started with doing a lot of Divinity Original Sin 2
Ooh,
because
it's a good
that
game.
game was just way too much fun for me. And
I've never
of course,
beat
I
it,
was
but
doing hardcore runs.
I have it.
Oh,
I'll have to
same.
add you on Steam. So
Yeah. I've never beat it, but I've put, I think, over 200 hours into it.
wow, that's great. I put a lot of hours in the first one, but not the
Yeah.
second one.
And besides Divinity, it's just been kind of miscellaneous games and a lot of tabletop stuff. So lore building, actual D&D campaigns.
Nice.
Yeah.
Um, besides D&D, do you venture into anything else or?
I haven't ever gotten the chance to. There was a system that I started with because I haven't been GMing for all that long, maybe a few years.
Yep.
But the game I actually started out with was a something built in tabletop simulator called U Realms Live, and it's pretty much a YouTube show and a live stream show that they, donation events, power, like we by donating can interact with the world.
That's
Um,
pretty sweet.
it's nice. It's more comedy based, and it's definitely built around streaming. But I started out in that just because I didn't have an easy way for me to go to D&D until I discovered like D&D Beyond existed.
Yeah, I'll tell you, man, the internet scene has changed my whole D&D experience. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I've been out of college for a while, and my friends and I just went our separate ways. Even though we're within a half an hour to an hour of each other, it's I don't know. It seems like it's impossible to get together. So it's definitely great.
Yeah,
It's a great age to be into tabletop because
that is so
running
true.
games online is amazing. Especially I don't know. Oh, you use Tabletop Simulator. I use Roll20 personally,
Mhm.
just because the macros are great. I actually heard
Oh, I
some other
bet.
ones that I kind of want to do some research to check out. But anyway, long story short, it's great. I can import all the tables, all
Hmm.
that crazy awesome stuff in the DMG that I never use because I'm not going to bookmark a million pages and roll on a million tables. It's right there. It's at my fingertips. So,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
that's nice.
Plus, my friends
Um,
don't like it when I sit and DM in my underwear. So that's a
yeah,
plus. That's
I
a
can
plus to
understand
the
that
lot.
one. That's
So
a it's always something that people watch out for.
yeah, man.
uh, I think my first experience with D&D was I was actually talking to a random person I met online. I don't remember what I met them through. I was playing something at the time, and they were talking to me about D&D, and so I started asking them about it, and they used a application called Fantasy Grounds,
Yeah. Yep. I know.
which I tried for a while. Oh man,
Really. I.
that that has a lot of stuff. Like roll 20 I could learn eventually, but if I lose my D20 somewhere on the board because for some reason it has its own physics engine,
Right.
but you can only
Yeah.
roll it inside the chat. I don't know, it didn't make sense to me.
It is a little wonky. I've watched a lot of YouTube on it and seen some reviews and um what I like a lot about Roll20 is that it is so customizable. It's not to say the Fantasy Grounds isn't,
Yeah.
but it's by nature system agnostic. So yeah, they've
Mhm.
partnered with Wizards of the Coast and they got all this great content on there. I mean, perhaps a little expensive, but
Yeah.
um, anyway, I can jump in, I can purchase what I want, but if I don't want to, before I bought the monster manual on there to save me time, I had pretty much the monster manual in character sheets, all set up,
Mhm.
and it took me forever. But it's one of those things, however much work you want to put into it, you know.
Yeah, that's really true.
So
Just using Tabletop Simulator is, I think, a bit. I wouldn't say it's streamlined at all, um, because I have to outsource to D&D Beyond for everybody's character sheets, and then we only do like we're playing a combat, so we actually need a board today, or we're going through a forest, and pretty much it's just storytelling, theater of the mind, and it's harder for me to implement like maps and everything. It's harder for me to do like you can do the 3D building ones. I was in a campaign where my DM actually did build those 3D maps inside Tabletop Simulator. But
I
man,
can't imagine how much time that must take. Oh,
yeah, it's insane.
oh man. So I guess let's get down to it. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. So last episode was the first episode. We talked a lot
Mhm.
about philosophy of the game, kind of what do we learn? What are the differences between like role playing and gaming and things like that. So
Mhm.
this time, kind of what I wanted to talk to you about was specifically players. Kind of talking about you know why are players important, right? Otherwise, we just
Yeah.
go write a book. Um, maybe some types of players, things that we do for our players, and if anybody's watching, they can feel free to come jump in on the Discord and come chat with us about it. So
Yeah.
I'm hold on one second here. There we go. I clicked in the wrong window. I'm still getting set up here, so blah 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 blah. Boom. Yeah, so I mean, why players? Um, like I said, otherwise you'd write a book, right? So
Yeah, absolutely.
what is it about playing a game collaboratively? What is that is more conducive to storytelling, or a good medium for it as opposed to just writing a book, or just digesting a movie?
I think it just puts you in so many odd circumstances. As either a player or a GM, you kind of sit there going, okay, what's going to happen now? And then you have that person go, okay, I'm going to open this door by sticking my sword in between, in between, and just crack it open. You're like, I
Right.
would have never thought about that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's.
One,
Go ahead.
sorry about that.
No, go ahead.
Oh, one person that I talked to, I met this self-published writer, and she did a lot of fantasy novels, very heavily very heavily based on like Lovecraft lore and stuff like that, or was very interested in Lovecraft. But she didn't even do the whole, okay, I sit there and I write the book. What she did is she's like, okay, there's conversations between these two people in the book. So she goes to her friend and like, okay, so here's a character, here's the character aspects. What do you think they'd say to this? How would we have a conversation as these characters?
Right.
And that's just an interesting idea, because in D&D that's what you get. You get a mass amount of people together and you have conversations with different ideals and different voices on occasion and different wants.
Oh, I totally agree. It's a really great experience for those of us that don't have schizophrenia, because it allows us to get all those different perspectives, and that's why I love running games, because personally my games end up being punishing, and I love putting players in the situation and seeing how they're going to figure it out, because I find you can make it, essentially you can crank that difficulty dial all the way up, and I find that they almost always, as long as they're given opportunity, the players generally fall through, because they come up with all these creative uses of their spells and abilities, and hey, remember we got that scroll, or they do all this weird stuff that it's awesome. It's, like I said, it's why I run games.
Yeah, it's a fantastic feeling. Like, just as a modern kind of example is the whole Critical Role like ending, with the players trying to fight a god.
Right.
So many of these things just had to be, okay, what do I have in my inventory? What am I going to be doing in this next turn? Discussing at the table. It was just a messy circumstance that turned out well.
Absolutely. And the just the togetherness, again, it's there's something that calls me back to that need for human interaction, right? That storytelling.
Yeah.
When sit on dad's lap and he'll read you this fucking book when you're 3 or whatever. It's like something about that's like, you don't know what's gonna happen, and you're all sharing that, and you're all kind of around the proverbial campfire. It's it's just something that I don't think I've ever gotten in anything. I personally, like I kind of talked last episode, is I can never really put myself into a character that's in like a game, like an RPG game.
Yeah.
I tried to, but I always end up, by the end of the game, I'm tapping A or X or whatever the button is, and I'm just like, all right, get through the dialogue. I gotta kill the thing, right? I gotta get the gold. I gotta do whatever. And I mean, not to say that that's wrong. Some people play D&D that way.
Yeah.
But it's I've never been able to have that sense of immersion outside of a tabletop game.
Yeah, for sure. I haven't gotten to mess with a lot of other tabletop games in particular. But D&D's always been that thing where I'm sitting there going, okay, what do I want to do next? I don't even have to, even if I'm not playing, I'm considering what are circumstances that I could put people in, or what would circumstances that this character, this ideal, this mindset would do.
Right.
And you get that, I agree with you that you get that table feel where you're not sitting around people, but you're sitting around people, right?
Right.
And I don't know, it's all kinds of fun because you have of course you have the tabletop banter, which isn't usually the in-game stuff. You have the in-game conversations, and for at least dungeon masters, game masters, a lot of the time they're just sitting back and listening, gathering information.
Yeah, there's been many a time. In the last campaign that I ran, I had this one character who she loved to roleplay, and it was like to the point where she would play Tavern Simulator, and like, you know what I mean, just like a whole session. She wouldn't even care. And I mean, that was maybe an extreme. The other players got a little bored, but there's a lot of opportunity. I would just sit back and they would talk for like 10 or 15 minutes. If they weren't talking to an NPC, and they would be discovering these things about their characters and stuff, and it's just a really cool experience, right? You make this world, but it's not just you making the world, it's everybody making the world, and before you know it, it's, bring me back to like hitting my buddy with a stick in the head, right? We're playing, pretending that we're Jedis, or, whatever.
Yeah. Completely agree with that.
So, go ahead.
Yeah.
Nope, go ahead.
It's a very interesting feeling just being able to sit there with either a blank slate or a completely established thing. Like, let's say you're playing, I'm just going to use D&D as an example because that's what I know. You're using the actual D&D universe. My power just went out.
Oh, your power just went out?
Well, I think so.
Oh,
for
man.
Temporarily, at least.
Danger Will Robinson, players don't make the world. If so, see episode 1. What is the DM's job? I agree. The DMs make the world. But
yes.
But what they do is they make a relatively blank slate.
Yeah.
Or I don't want to say all, because I think that's that's saying everybody's this one thing. Everybody tends to make their worlds differently. I've seen, I watched Tracken actually. What was it, yesterday? And he's got this big document, and he's like every single inn and every person in the inn. And that's awesome. Like if you want to do that. I know me personally, I generally have important people. I plan things on a higher level, like a regional and a global scale.
Yeah.
And I leave, I think, in my opinion, I think a good GM makes the world with holes to be filled in by the players.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it's just, here's this thing I made, playing it. Some people like that, some people don't. I find personally that people get more engaged. Otherwise, there wouldn't be Greyhawk Forgotten Realms.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you know what? I agree. I agree, but in the sense that if you say you're playing, say you're playing Forgotten Realms, right? You're using most of the content, but I find personally, and again, maybe it's just my experiences thus far, but that's not 100% by the book. Generally, there's like, I'm this elfin warrior, and there is some piece that the player owns. I find that's what the fun is, right? There's something about the player that they make. It doesn't have to be a whole region, or a whole, like, here's my whole town even, but there's something that the player brings to the table that is not just your idea, that then it becomes ours and not just mine.
Yeah. I think I'll be completely honest. This is the first ever town that I've built where I established damn ends. I was really curious on trying something different this time because this upcoming area is very story based. Just because characters just hit level 3, so I'm like, oh, I wanna actually do things that make them level up compared to, oh yeah, you guys are level 3 now. Here's all your things.
Right. Like a time skip, or like, oh, we did this thing and we all learned how to do these
Yeah,
new things.
yeah. I was I started this campaign with a huge, oh, you should run. And so my players did. And eventually they made their way to where they're at now and hit level 3 on the way. But now they're in this place where it could go in a good circumstance where they could actually do something. They could, save a city just by giving them information. They could just go on whatever quest that they originally had. But either way, it's gonna end up fun.
Right. Right. And I
I'm
think so player choice, right, and player
Mhm.
involvement, right. But like what Shadzar is saying, he's saying it's all about reaction and action, and
Yes.
they don't make the stream; they just interact with it and affect it. And
Yeah.
one moment to articulate what I'm trying to say here is I'm just
Yeah.
wondering, how much is a preference, right? My preference personally is I like to let the players have as much as, I don't want to say as much as they want. I like to give them bounds of, here you can color in these lines,
Yeah.
because that's the way I feel every time I've done it, people love it, they eat it up. And backstory, or even a town and a city, I generally say, where do you come from? Here's a region map that I make or we make together. Generally it's we make together.
Hmm.
And then I fill in the blanks, and they say, okay, well, this is kind of what my town is. But then there's also the other thing where, maybe they all come from, maybe they're all in a village that you made up, and they're childhood friends, and this is the big bad thing. I think maybe some of it's just preference.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm the person that goes, oh yeah, I have a world. I have basic lore of the world. What did you have in mind for your hometown? Where were you raised? I had a character that created an entire town and their shipping ports, everything. And I said, okay, here's the map. Go ahead and place it where you want.
Right. That's generally what I do on like a region. I have a banner. I do it like a map piece, and
Mhm.
because I like hexes, and I just say, here's the region map. I run it more sandbox style. I'm just like, here, place it where you want, and that's where you guys
Yeah.
start your adventure, and I'll loop you in. So anyway, so Shadzar, do you think there's any merit to having people create their own town, or their own small piece of the world? Wait a second, because lag.
Yeah. Stream delay. Yeah.
Like, woo! Because I definitely see the merit in um, true. Yeah, you are taking part in an exploration game, but I think it's also, I think what Matt Colville calls the noodly bits of
Hmm.
of the campaign, the world building. I think anybody can do that. It just takes time, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes I think it makes it easier than to just be. It depends on the type of player too. I know for me, if I can take ownership of it, I'm going to remember it better. I'm going to interact with it better. So if I get to say, oh, like this is my small village that I grew up in, and it doesn't even have to be on the map. It could just be a no-name place.
Yeah.
And I think you have a point. I think that depends on the DM. Me personally,
Yeah.
I have I generally improv a lot of the stuff. I know everything going on a higher level, on a region to global. I know how all the pieces are moving. I'll name, however many villages or whatever that are around, but I also have a random encounter, and sometimes they come into I don't want to say an encampment, but a settlement, right? And it might be like a small settlement, and it's unnamed, and sometimes people don't even need to know the name of it, or you can just do it on the fly. But I think it really depends. It's very situational, right? It depends if the DM is good at improv, if the DM wants to improv, and sometimes, again, because we're talking more about the players, sometimes the players don't want that. I think sometimes the players just want to say, these are all the things, like they want to know for sure. This is how everything is. I can go look it up in a book and show you. Here's the sentence where it says that. Some people have, I think, more immersion from that as opposed to just rolling with it.
Yeah.
Right.
I think
Yeah,
it really heavily decided on what your player characters are, or your players in general. They may like the Faerun mindset, where you're placed into the actual realm, where everything is established. This is how each city goes. The DM just kind of fills in bits and pieces, or as you do it, where it's just, okay, here's region and towns, made up on the spot. It really is based on player as well.
right. I think if everybody has good communication going on, they can do either or. Because I think in order to be a GM, some of it is you just have to do it, but I think that is the first step of being a GM. I know that was what it was like for me, is when Matt, the last guest, he was like, he would give us free reign to be like, here, create this stuff, because a lot of times you end up finding that where they come from is far away, or it never actually interacts with what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's good to foster those skills, because I personally, I want more people to GM. I have a couple of people that actually were my players. I ran some one-shots, I ran some this and that, and one of them was like, oh, thank you so much. Like, I wouldn't have done it if, you know, if you didn't, like, push me. I gave her a couple of books, and I'm like, no problem. Like, I want people to GM. Like, people ask to be in my games all the time, or I just think in general it's a needed skill. You know, it's I don't want to say it's not for everybody, but it's a lot of work, and sometimes people don't have that time, but they want to play, right?
Yeah. Let's see. I was immediately thrown into the GM seat.
Yeah.
I was a GM before I was a player, and I learned most of my just how to interact with the world, how to build stuff off of and published things on D&D or RPGs in general. Like, there are so many podcasts going on right now, which seemingly all have fantastic GMs, fantastic players. A lot of them comedy based, but a lot of them also story based or world based. Like, I have great examples for just about every single one of those.
Right.
And having those resources right now was a fantastic thing for players, people that are interested in DMing. It's just like, here's some things that could help.
I agree. I've watched probably I'm not exaggerating when I say probably hundreds of hours of videos, podcasts on, like, there's like I think there's Matt Colville, there's like Bacon Battalion, there's why am I drawing a blank? Taking 20, there's Nerdarchy, there's a whole bunch of these channels that I'll just listen to them in the background. Sometimes it's like, yeah, no, screw that, I don't agree with that, but
yeah,
you take little bits of what Lord of the Rings audio only. That's pretty cool. But yeah, I think it's a good day and age to learn how to play. You're not just stuck with the DM that's in the, you know, here's like my older brother. I don't know anybody else that plays D&D. No, it's like, here's the whole internet, you know, and those people that are more motivated, rather than put a million posts on the Roll20 forums or whatever, you know, they can just say, hey, you know what, screw it, guys, I'm gonna run some one shots and try and maybe get some players and put a campaign together.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, Shads. I don't know. Can you see the chat, by the way? I don't know if you're in or.
I can, yeah. Yeah, I'm
So.
I am.
I think that I think it's all very situational, chances are, because if you have good communication, if you guys know, I think you would know your group best. Because for me, like I encourage that. I want people to have their own little piece, right? Or for instance, a lot of players want a stronghold, or a lot of players want to like build up the thieves guild or do this and that. They're kind of building up part of the world, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yes, maybe uh, I feel like they can create something on the sheet, right? Or they can just create something during play, right?
Yeah.
Because it's there. If you're reacting to their decision, they can decide to be like, okay, I'm making this now. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is it depends how comfortable the DM is and the players are, right?
Hmm.
Because I like that, but like if you're running a game and you're like, nah, I don't want anybody to touch my world, like this is that, and everybody's on the same page and like, yeah, we just want to play, and we don't want that, then that's cool. I think it really depends on the group.
There's kind of a built-in mechanic to help out with that too. It's an optional rule, the plot point system, where there's a couple ways you can do it. I found that giving the group a plot point compared to each individual person, better, just because then they have to agree on what happens. But what
Right.
what the plot point does is, yeah, this player has a plot point. You're in a dungeon. They have one way out of this room. One player says, "Okay, I'm gonna use my plot point to create a secret exit for this room." You're like, "Okay, yeah." The drawback is that door will be locked, so you have to then find a way to unlock it. Um,
Well, I mean, I think you're free range to say no at that
yeah,
Shadzar,
yeah.
you know, and generally, so just to put things into perspective for me, real quick, I generally do it at the beginning. Say if you guys want to make anything like here's your town, here's like what's going on here.
Yep.
I do it as a like a geographical here. This is what you made and maybe how these people act. But then you give it to me. It's like you make it and then it's mine. Is
Yeah.
generally how I run it. So I'm not doing it as a off the cuff like, hey, like what are we doing today? Like I have some things in mind. I have a lot of different pieces moving, but I find that players like that world building, even though they don't want to be Atlas and shoulder the whole world. It's fine to
Mhm.
pick up their small piece of it and do what they will, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, so maybe the better way of kind of confronting those situations is that you give them pretty much, instead of writing an essay, you give them a paragraph, right?
Right.
And what you do is you take that paragraph and you expand it into an essay.
That's a good. I like that.
Because where my character, or one of my players, oof, my character, not oof, my where my player created that entire town that's established. He has, the ranking members. He has, his mother is the one that created this entire guild. If we go there and I screw something up, he'll be able to point it out. But also then I go, crap, I don't know this well enough. I don't know
Right.
how these people act. This is how he imagines it, which can be good or bad. It could be some circumstance where he's given me this information, but I've adapted it so each player or each character in the world is different than what they brought in originally, because stuff has changed how they act. Stuff has changed their attitudes.
I agree. And just 1 second. So episode
Mhm.
0 next week for session 0. Nice. Getting together to play and setting up boundaries. Do you want to do
Nice.
we can do an episode on like just setting up session zeros and communication and setting up all that stuff. If you're
That'd be a
interested in
very
a Shadza.
interesting.
Yeah, you guys can
Yeah,
put whatever you want. I'll take your suggestions. I'll run with them.
that's a very fun episode, actually. I think that would be, at least.
So, anyway, circling back, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Players. So, just real quick before I go on to the next topic, because I was thinking of this earlier.
Mhm.
DMPCs. Yes or no?
Oh man,
Is it ever a good idea, or is it always a good idea, or
it's
never a good idea?
I say it sometimes is. Um, if you want to have or push an idea of how eventful something was, you have these DM PCs that they can kind of learn eventually. Maybe they keep running into them every so often, and maybe they're both gaining level and building the story side by side, but not really colliding all that often. But you do it for another story element. Like, these are your rivals. You could do the whole concept where you run two campaigns, have that group be the rival, have this group be the rival. But then if you miss a week or something like that, then you fall behind, the world gets all messy, you fall into paradoxes. I think DMPCs are interesting in some circumstances, but they have to be done properly for them to be good, or otherwise you just look like, oh, I'm the DM and I'm showing off.
And before I say my 2 cents,
Mhm.
what would those circumstances be? Like, what would it? Give an example of what a good circumstance would be to use a DMPC, as opposed to. So obviously, we're not talking about a one-time, like, here's an NPC, like here's a DMPC that's like long-term, recurring.
Yeah,
like that.
I would say, what's a good example? This most recent campaign I've been doing, I did throw a couple of these NPC or these DMPCs in there, but it was mostly the first of all thought was, okay, here's some way for me to build some interesting mix of character and spell, right? Something weird, like, oh man, I wanted to make a muscle wizard, but why would I want to make a muscle wizard in this world? And then you go, okay, how can I tie this into the storyline? How can I tie this to the players? And what I did is I tied it to the original town that they were in, my players were in, as it was getting destroyed. And so it put in perspective how much it affected the, not just NPCs, but now the player characters also know that these characters that I created and had in this world are going to the same city they're going to end up at, and I have plans for them down the line of what their overall goals are and what they're going to try to accomplish. Where in some circumstances it wouldn't make sense for me to try to draw the PCs into those story bits.
Right. And so what separates that from, like, say, an NPC? What is the difference, I guess, between that? So is the plan to have that be like he's always there, or he or she or that DMPC always there, or because, like, for instance, right? If I was going to run, say, an NPC, an important NPC, not a DMPC, but I would say, and I've done it in the past. Here's a person, right? And they're giving information. They're moving the story. They're doing whatever it is they need to do to make things dramatic, and they're assisting or hurting or whatever they're doing. They're interacting with the party in some way. And when the battle comes, unless they're secretly an enemy, which I've done before, I'll say, here, I'll give it to a player to run, so they're not like, oh, DM's running. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I try and make them characters that don't take action. I think that's generally a big thing. Is, again, I personally don't think DMPCs, like, I've never really used one in that sense. I've only just like, it's never had its own goals. It's like, I'm gonna do whatever you say, or my goal is this, and the only reason why I'm with you is because you're some small piece in this, or I'm going to die if I don't do this, or there has to be like a reason, and then they leave. I found personally, but I've also never run for like a one-on-one campaign. A buddy of mine is doing it. He's a player of mine, and he's he's new to the GM scene, and he's like, yeah,
Mhm.
I got a person, and I'm gonna do a one-on-one, and he says so far it's going okay, but he told me that he was making a pretty much a PC to help him, and I don't know, I've never done it, but
I guess I could see that making sense because whether or not you, for just an example of, let's say you don't know how a class works, and none of your players would be interested in playing that class. You could create one of these like DMPCs, just have it on the side for maybe a combat, something like that. Even you could write it as an NPC or write it as just a one-time character, but it would let you learn the mechanics of this. So in case one of your players ever do decide to play one of these classes or one of these races, you know the basics of how it works, and so you can help them through it.
so trying to think of an example. So maybe like a
Mhm.
roster, if like they're at a guild or something like an adventurers guild, and here's a roster of people they can hire, and that person gets a portion. But even then,
Yeah.
what separates that again from like an NPC? I think the DMPC. I think what would separate them, because I think right when you utter the words DMPC, everybody kind of like puckers up a little bit. Um,
Yeah.
I think the real difference between them is the fact that the DMPC has their own motivations that affect the players in a
Yeah.
significant
Yeah.
way. Because, like, whenever I make somebody, I always try and give them motivations, but those
Mhm.
motivations are happening off screen. Like, this guy is tired and he wants to go to bed, like, so he's grumpy, or you know what I mean, stuff like
Yeah.
that. But even an important NPC is like, oh, I need this thing from you, now go away so I can do this other thing, right? I think it's only if you're really affecting, you're taking the spotlight, you're role
Yeah.
playing to
Yeah.
yourself as this, once you start taking away, then it's like all of a sudden it's like, whoa, I need to find another GM, I need to play in a game.
Yeah, I think if the GM's taking the spotlight because of one of these DM NPCs, that's definitely not the correct way to do it. But yeah, I think Shadzar pointed it out, right? Where he says most other games, NPCs or OPCs are, the same rules of a PC, so everything equals across the board. Um, but yeah, if you make that monster, you just keep with those. You can give it a class.
Yeah, I
DM
usually
NPCs are almost every, like, you'd be that person every single combat that would show up the player characters, or you'd be there constantly.
right. So, and I think just on a side note, I actually do.
Hmm.
So normally, I always make all my anything as like special creatures, and
Yep.
um, normally that's what I do. I just say, here's a sheet. I know what this person's motivations are if it's an NPC, and I'm just like, what's the humanoid equivalent of? Yeah, here's a gladiator. You know,
Hmm.
and it's like boop boop. Like they are a gladiator. They just rename everything, and then sometimes they'll take away or add abilities or something. But
Yeah.
I generally run them like a monster in combat, or like I said before, a lot of times I'll give it to somebody and be like, okay, this is your ally. How you're gonna run them, because I feel like it's less. The less that I'm doing, the less it feels like my character.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, if
Yeah.
you have a town full of NPCs who are also fighting back against, the incoming horde, and the PCs are just like, okay, we're just gonna stand back here and watch. Like, then you're just fighting yourself at that point. You're, writing a book.
Right. Right. And yeah, no, henchmen, followers, stuff like that. It's all good stuff. It's a pretty much what it is. It's just, yeah, using that NPC. Yeah, it's again, yeah, you'd crank up the difficulty a little bit to match that.
Hmm.
That they have an extra ally on their side, but generally, I try and make them meek, or weak, or like I try and give them a flaw that like they're not like a normal person, I guess. I say normal.
Hmm.
They're not like a normal adventurer, because either they're like wow, how is this person alive? Because like they're just gonna charge in. Like it's like, oh, here's like a pit of spikes. I'm gonna dive in head first. Like here's a, or it's like I don't know how to do anything. I'm literally just here to be your guide, and I am like, take one hit and I'm dead. Like you need to protect me. Like
Yep.
So that's generally how I run that stuff. But all right. So I guess coming off the DM PC, what are some other approaches? Sorry, I was reading that. What are some other types of PCs? So hold on. Boom. Types of players. So I know there's a lot about this on the YouTube. There's how to be a great GM or player. He's got like 2 channels, whatever. Anyway,
Yeah.
Bacon Battalion. And Matt Colville, I was watching his. I was actually reviewing it today, just kind of like, So what he had on there was he had the Power Gamer, right? The Murder Hobo.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, what's up, Jared? Power Gamer, Murder Hobo, Tactician, Specialist, the Actor, the Storyteller, and the Casual Gamer. So nobody generally falls in any one specific category, like just one. So
Yeah.
is there any others that you can think of, or whether they're good or whether they're bad, or just like types of different types of players? The Rules Lawyer.
Yeah, I was gonna say that one.
Yeah, I think yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, Pearly. So tell a story and not play game. Slash or min max the person just. Yep. So some of those kind of line up with what I was doing, but yes, I think one that was not covered in there, yes, is the Rules Lawyer. Is that necessarily wrong? I think a lot of people don't like the Rules Lawyer. I personally don't like the Rules Lawyer. I had a player in my last campaign that was kind of a Rules Lawyer. He would like talk to me for hours and be like, "Hey, why did you do this and why did you do that?" I'm like, just, it's fine, man. Anyway, so some people find comfort in that. You know, some people that's why there's still people that play, you know, 3rd edition, right? And some of these other complex games is because you look at it and the rule is like a whole fucking page long.
Yeah.
Right? And it makes sense when you read it and it's like, no, yeah, like that is how things, yep. And some people find comfort in that. That's their immersion, is the fact that they know they can go to a book and these are the rules of the world, you know, and they find comfort in that as opposed to finding comfort in, say, me saying, oh, this is how we're going to do it this time, and just making a call.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I think it does slow down the game for sure. But what about you? Have you run into a bunch of rules lawyers yet?
I haven't run into a lot, thankfully. I'd probably thank them if they were there, because, you know, I'm still trying to learn all the rules of D&D, so I'm not, you know, I don't know every rule. So I hear something like, you know, oh, my boon lets me have a imp as my find familiar. I go look at the spell and it's like, oh, that your boon definitely does allow that. No.
Right.
But I'm also a homebrew rule user, so I can kind of shove things in my, if I get one of those, I can shove it in their face like, yeah, this is my rule.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think everybody has their own little spin, and that's the cool thing about 5th edition anyway, and there's some other systems that are really good for homebrew, because you're not interfacing it with these page-long rules, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think at some point, like, there's a healthy respect, right, for the mechanics of the game. And once you just run enough games, you kind of know what that is. It's really easy to just bend it. Be like, no, I don't like that. No, I'm going to do this. No, I'm going to do that. And
yeah.
I think besides that one player that I had in my last campaign, I've been pretty lucky about the rules lawyer. Yeah, I mean, Pearly Whirly's a little bit sometimes, but generally he's not like bad about it. He doesn't harp about it. He's like, yeah, man, I'm pretty sure it works like this. I'm like, Yeah, no. Actually, you're right. Yeah, it does work like that. But if it's any sort of like, um, I think if it's any sort of time where I'm like, oh, I gotta look it up, I gotta do this and that. If it takes more than like 20 seconds, I'm just gonna say, no, this is how it works. And if you
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
debate about it after, we'll talk after the session.
Yep.
But
I like that. That's just a good like table rule.
yeah, and I think what I'm gonna start to do, one tip I've never done, but I'm trying to let go a little bit, is
Mhm.
giving different players jobs, because I tend to run very complex battles with like 4, 5, 6, 7 different types of minions all working together, and they have all this crazy stuff. Is
Yeah.
dishing out jobs to everybody, and I think I'm gonna give Burly Whirly the job for, like, you look up the rules, man. Like, you are the book, right? Because he
Yeah.
ends up doing that anyway. So it's like, yeah, here's your official titer. Titer. Here is your official titer.
Yes. I was actually handed that title just because I know where to research for stuff. And like it's not the fact that I go around and go, you can't use your action for that. No, I don't really care about that much. I had a player use their bonus action to sprint, and I'm like, sure, why not? I don't care right now. We're in a fight. I already let you guys. I said that you guys were 10 minutes away and let you come into battle in 2 turns. It's okay. But my GM is just like, hey, Tracken, can you go research that? And I'm like, yeah, give me a couple minutes. So while they're going about their turn, because usually I already have my mindset of what my character is going to do unless something drastically changes. I'm going to research that and just let them know after the fact happens. So they're like, oh, okay, got it. That's how it works.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I haven't been quite able to let go yet. But one thing is letting the players run the monsters. But I don't know if I trust them enough, because I'm very. I don't want to say I'm cruel, but I really put myself in their shoes. Like, a beast might just attack like the biggest threat, or sometimes they just attack the weakest. And sometimes that means a player dies. But I don't know. I'm thinking about testing the waters and seeing how it goes. But
that'd be
anyway,
something very interesting to try out.
Because I think and you'll. How many players do you run for, generally?
I'll say 5 to 6, roughly.
5 to 6. Yeah, 6 and above. It gets pretty. It gets long, like the cycle. By the time you get to the next person, especially when there's like a lot of different enemy types, and it's like,
yeah,
it can be tedious. Yeah, so it's kind of
my
like
DM our last session. Sorry about that.
No, go ahead.
My DM last session introduced an 8th player. I'm like, oh, oof.
8? That's crazy. Like a weekly, like there will be 8 people, or like, no, it's like a sandbox, like some people, or it's a West Marches.
I think it's going to be, if we can get all 8 players, then we have all 8 players. Right. But man, our last combat in that, he has some homebrew rules that makes so elves are pretty much immortal. Like elves as the race, just high elves really.
Nice.
High elves and wood elves, I think. So they have like this sheet long of homebrew rules that we don't know, us non-elves, and we had 2 elves in the fight as player characters, and we had all the enemies were elves. So we were in this combat just going, I hit it with my hammer. Turn done. It was a very interesting fight, and it took a lot longer than the DM thought, so we actually ended the session early.
Oh man. Yeah, it sounds pretty. I don't know. I wasn't there, but it sounds interesting. That's for sure.
It was weird. We can say that because we also learned basically necrotic damage does some weird things to elves, and that's one of the only ways they can die, besides like being eaten, drowned, etc., etc. Things that would literally kill anybody, but they can't really die by being like stabbed or anything. And supposedly they are resistant to every single type of damage that isn't necrotic. So I then started thinking about how OP an elf barbarian would be. And it was just it was annoying for me as a player because I mean, out in combat they were all in the trees, and I'm a paladin that doesn't have any range spells yet. So I'm sitting there going, okay, I can throw my hammer, which is most likely going to miss. Oh, that person went down. Like, go help them up. And then by the time that happens, everybody's like off the battlefield and gone. Oh man, it was very interesting.
Heated debate going on in chat.
Let's see what we got.
Fast food and sports.
Oh man.
So types. So just circling back. So types of players, right? Linking that to problem players.
Yes.
What do you do? What do you do when you have a problem player? Is there a specific kind of, or are there like multiple, like, it's like, I can't stand, I hate power gamers, or I hate tacticians, or is there anything that's, like, what grinds your gears, if you will, to use an old man term?
It's okay, that's a great term. I don't know, there's multiple, I think. So one of my older campaigns, they would always, since I do most of my campaigns through, Discord and Tabletop Simulator, they'd end up sleeping through most of the campaign, like just accidentally slipping through alarms and not getting up for the campaign. So they show up like last hour and go, okay guys, what happened? Oh, I didn't die this combat? Oh, cool, awesome. Right, I had that one a few times. And then the player that tries to speak over the DM for pointless stuff, not character information. If it's character information, like you're talking in roleplay, that's completely fine. I'll give up that seat. But it's more like just random banter. So at one point, I just kept talking until they stopped, and they're like, "Oh, what'd you say?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, you killed the beast." And they're like, "Oh."
Oh yeah, that's so when I play offline, and actually, I hate that too, because it's like, if we want to hang out and we don't want to play D&D, that's cool, man. Like, let's play Mario Kart, or we're like, play Super Smash Brothers and whatever, right? So that's cool. But if you invite me over and we're running a game and I put in time and effort, or somebody else puts time and effort and I'm playing, it's like, I'm there to play, right? I'm there to play the game. So when people are whipping out their phones, I'm like, dude, put it away, blah, blah, blah. But when I'm running, if it's in person and they're not ready, they're like looking at their phone, or they're like not paying attention, I just skip their turn. Just like, yeah. So like, it mimics, like, if you're not paying attention right now, that's, represented by your characters kind of like looking around or not paying attention, or like waiting to act. So I just skip them. Sometimes I'll be nice if it's like a really critical battle, and I'll circle around at the end of the round and be like, okay, here's the people that were blah blah blah. But anyway, I put repercussions to that.
Oh yeah. How I fixed that was I actually did speak to the person outside of the game, and compared to apparently like all their other GMs, which I was mortified to hear this, because of things like that, instantly kicked them from the campaign, not trying to talk to the person. Like, I mean, I that's insane to me.
Oh, for sure. I would give him a warning. I would talk to him. Absolutely. Be like, hey, man, especially I think if you're talking about close friends, but even if you're just even if you're just grabbing a bunch of random people off some forums somewhere and throwing them in a Discord and saying, hey, we're gonna play D&D, all these strangers, I just feel like it's courteous to be like, hey, man, this isn't working, this is why.
Yeah.
And if it's not, like I think you got to be kind of like the dad, the catalyst. You got to be like, all right, man, this is what's going on. If it doesn't change, you're gone.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But at least giving them that heads up, because some people don't realize. And so, kind of coming in, new players. What about that? Do you have a preference? Are you kind of like, yeah, I'll deal with new players? Or are you kind of like, I love new players? Or are you like,
I like new players. Most of the people at GM are new players. Just because, like, I was the person that tried getting people into D&D in my friends group. Yeah. Like, I had one guy. Funny enough, start of last year, I went to PAX with him, And I was like, yeah, dude, I've been playing some D&D recently. I've been doing a lot of lore building. And he's like, dude, you're such a nerd. I'm like, yeah, I'm okay with that. 3 months later, he's like, yeah, I bought the GM's guide and the
Yeah.
player
Air
manual.
high
I'm like,
five. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and so I ended up, they're one of my players now, and they know a lot of their own rules, etc., etc. And I like new players just because whether or not they know the rules of the campaign, you can easily explain it.
Oh yeah, especially for it's a lot easier to get into 5th edition than it is to get into some of the other editions. And and even then, like, you can break them in. Like, I think it's pretty easy to like, there are simpler alternatives to rules, or there's like, yeah, don't worry about that. Like, you just end the battle and you regain everything and whatever. Like, you, or
Yeah.
whatever, you know what I mean? Like, you can do whatever you want. It's fairly easy to simplify it even more. But I think that, I'm drawing a blank here. Yeah, you just gotta, for new players, for me, love them. I love them. I had like 30 of them, and I ran a bunch of one shots. And when I was new to the Roll20 scene, and I was sifting through to find the kind of the ones that I wanted to actually run a long-term campaign for, and I love new players, man. Is it sometimes a little frustrating? Yeah, but I feel like it's really rewarding when you teach them how to do, like, I'm grooming them how I want them to be players. That's not how they always turn out, don't get me wrong, but I feel like they develop a lot of skills, and so far, I think about half of them are like, yeah, I'm gonna go run like my own games now. It's like, that's awesome. Like, I'm glad that you're gonna do that, you know, because, and to me, what I like is when people are like, yeah, I kind of want to get into this tabletop thing. You run a game, right? And when you're playing with like the ye old gamers, right? We're talking like the people in like the 50s and 60s that have been playing for years, and because you get a lot of those on online games, and they know everything. You know what I mean? They know all the rules. They know everything that's ever been, and like nothing phases them anymore, right?
Yeah.
So, player grooming. Yeah,
oh, man, that'd
player
be
grooming.
Playa,
Playa, playa.
Oh yeah, there we go. I like that one.
So, I lost my train of thought here, but yeah, like, new players, everything is shiny, right?
Yeah, if you get a veteran, they're not going to be surprised by you pulling out a beholder.
Oh yeah. So I keep going back to my last campaign, but I had like probably my greatest moment as a GM. Right, I set up all this stuff. There's a big bad, right, and they defeated it. Long story short, the big bad like threatened to kill one of these NPCs that they really loved, and blah blah blah. And it was the player that was a super role player, and essentially held an action like, if you come any closer, I'm going to kill this person.
Yeah.
Of course they did it. They killed the big bad, but then I described the scene, and like, she started legit weeping, you know? And like,
yeah,
you know, part of you kind of
always
feels bad, but it was like like the fact that like you can make somebody feel something, right?
Oh yeah.
And it's there's just shit like that happens, and it's like, you know what? It's all make believe, but I don't give a crap. Like, I love it. It's awesome. You know, it's like, besides, unless you're being an asshole, like, how many times are you gonna go make somebody weep and like feel like warm about it after?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I accidentally did that, but that's because first session, by the way, my character got so he got so into his character that he was in the mindset where he decided to walk a weird direction in this building, this massive like underground building, and so he ended up getting lost because first time there he doesn't know his directions. So in character he starts crying, and then at this point he just starts laughing, and this old dwarf has to escort him out, just going, "No, it's okay, you know." And once he gets out, it's like, I was in tears. That was horrifying.
Right. Oh, it's a crazy and awesome journey, and I love it,
Oh
especially
yeah.
with new players taking those first steps, and even people that play, right? I can't speak that much for Pearly Whirly, but I
Hmm.
feel like he's had a lot different experience in my game than he has in other games, um, because you can tell by the way he acts that it was maybe DM versus PCs before. I don't know,
Hmm.
but like you see that, and all of a sudden it's like holding on to like my character, like right. It's once they take possession of the character, that's it. Like they're hooked, and I love that. I love that
Yeah.
feeling, you know.
Yeah.
So going down this list though, so maybe any comments on ones you like. Do you want to just go through the list and we'll have a comment on each one and then move
Sure.
on?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So power gamer, yes or no? Do you mind it?
Power. I think if they do it correctly, so if you have a conversation with the player, and you know they're wanting to be this OP kind of character, like what I'm going to be doing with my Paladin Hexblade, which is scary as hell. Um, I don't want to play it as a power gamer. I know that I want to just play it off as there's circumstances where I'll be overpowered, but I'm also the leader of the group, so I have to protect everybody. So it in some sense it makes sense for my character to do things that would be abnormal to the original circumstance. But if they're power gaming and just like doing it for the hell of it, and you said, "Hey, man, we need to have to talk about this afterwards," and they're just kind of salty about it, then I don't think it's the correct circumstance.
Yeah, I think with anything in moderation, um,
Hmm.
personally, ah, power gamers turn me off. I hate them.
Yeah.
I hate them, and I try not to because like I know when I play, like I want to be optimal, right? I want to do this and that. So, but for whatever reason, when I run, like I get real like, oh, like I don't like them. But at the same time, it depends. Like if I'm running a kind of game, like you kind of have to be like you have to know D&D or you have to know how to be tactile. I don't mind
Yeah.
it. If as long as everybody's on the same page, right? If I have say all the party and they're not optimized, they're like, yeah, we're like RP characters and we're this and that, and then you have like the one badass dude that like can just kill them fucking all, right?
Yeah.
And it's like not even close. Then it unless they're cool with it, unless they're like, yeah, this is our kick-ass guy, we send him in, and then we just like sit back. Then okay, sure.
I
But
like those teams.
as long as everybody's cool with it, I'm cool with
Yeah.
it. But for some
Yeah.
reason, like something about it always rubs me the wrong way, and that's just me. That is like a personal thing. Even though like I know I'm like, don't judge a person like a player, character, whatever. But for some reason, like I can't help myself.
Yeah, I can completely understand that. Power games are always interesting.
Right. Well, especially so, I will say just real quick before we move on to the next one. What
Mhm.
irks me, I think, the most is like intelligence is always the dump stat, but nobody wants to play if like somebody who's mentally challenged. You know what I mean? Nobody
Oh
wants to
yeah.
play like the character like I can't read and like you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and all of a sudden it's like the barbarian came up with that really smart plan. It's like it's hard to separate like the character from the player. It's like there's no actual consequences of having a low intelligence except the save, right? Because nobody
Yeah.
actually plays like they're a buffoon. So I
Yeah.
think that's the biggest
I
one is intelligence for me.
Oh
But
man, I speaking of which, I did play one of those barbarians, but I was going to completely be the I can't read. I was a halfling barbarian that had a 6 in intelligence and a 7 in wisdom. I was horrible. I think I had an 8 charisma. I was really bad at everything. I
but
was I was so excited. It was so awkward when the characters met me because they were just like, "Who the heck is this? Why are they so weird?"
absolutely, it's like but so okay. So one thing though, right? So that's
Hmm.
intelligence, but like with charisma, right? Somebody plays a bard. I play the kind of games that like you don't have to necessarily make rolls. If you really are uncomfortable and you want to make rolls, okay. But a lot of my stuff is run just by talking back and forth,
Okay.
right?
Okay. Yeah.
And I feel like that's not the same. It's not like I'm like, all right, make a strength check. You actually have to lift a fucking boulder and throw it across your room right now. You know what I mean? Like, you don't actually have to display any of those skills or to like use any of that, you know, for the other things. So that's why it's kind of weird. I don't know. It's a whole weird thing, right? It's
I
like
kind
this
of like
weird,
it. Yeah.
confusing, whatever. But anyway, so moving on to the next one. So, murder hobos.
Ooh.
I can't stand it, man.
Yeah, I'm in the
I
same boat.
used to. I used to run games like that, and I used to run like the stereotypical fantasy experience, and like there's goblins, and there's orcs, and there's a dragon, and there's like every stereotypical thing, and it was just like over the top. I remember playing in my buddy's game when I was a teenager, right? And I was this barbarian, like chaotic neutral with crazy stats, whatever, and I would just like be like, I'm hungry, and go through the forest and like bite a deer's neck. Like just be like, yeah, the roll. Okay, you bit its neck off and you just eat it raw. Like it was just like over the top crazy, and it's fun, you know. But like now it's like, I want to be like more cynical and, you know, less of a fruitcake, and actually like have a good kind And not to say that you can't have a good Pulp Fiction story with murder hoboism, but I just it kind of turns me off these days.
Yeah, I'm in that same boat.
Yeah, I think it ties in with the casual gamer type, right? You know, he's just there to have fun, or you know, he just wants to kill the stuff and get some fantasy money and hookers and whatever. So
yeah. Oh, I dislike those players.
Right.
I've had a couple of those, and one of them just completely turned me off. It was so bad. He was a character that I don't remember what we were doing, but I said a couple things to him, and then after a couple minutes, he asked pretty much the exact same question that he asked 5 minutes ago. And then the other players, before I have time to respond, they're like, he already answered that. And he goes, oh, I just don't listen to Tracken. I'm like, oh, okay. Huh.
Wow, way to be.
Yeah. And I think casual gamers also play into the aspect of, okay, I create an NPC, right? I hand the NPC in kind of odd circumstances. You don't have to talk to the NPC, but a lot of people are most people are curious, like, why is this NPC in this circumstance? Why are they chained up in the basement? Why are they, why are they hiding in a tree? Why do they have guards around their cart? But casual gamers are just like, yeah, those people exist. They're there.
Right. Yeah, I would agree. I think they don't really they don't engage as much. I feel like, right, a casual gamer, they just kind of, they show up, they have a good time, right? And if they're sitting back, I have one player actually that is kind of like this, and he's just like, yeah, this is cool, right? He's not, unless he's kind of prompted, like he doesn't take action by himself, right? He'll be a part of a conversation, but he's more of like, no, I just want to see how things roll out, and that's fine, right? I just not everybody is, right, an actor or some of these other types. But so next, tactician. So
tactician.
I do a lot of theater of the mind, but because we play on a virtual tabletop, I love being tactile. I feel like it gives the battles more drama, right? More tension.
Yep.
I, as a DM, play very tactically.
Yes.
Is it tactical? Anyway, I play a tactile game, and by default, my players kind of have to adjust to that, right? And the reason for that is because there's not an adventuring day in my games. A lot of my encounters are more difficult. Some of them are walk in the park, but a lot of
Yeah.
them end up being more difficult because they're fewer and far between. So it's like when they have all their resources, that's
Mhm.
generally when they fight. So, and it also gives that atmosphere of like the world is a dangerous place. Don't go outside of town unless you're an adventurer, and
Yeah.
you don't have anything to lose. So, tying into the tactician is I think kind of the rules lawyer comes in. I think that's like one of the shadows of the tactician.
Yeah.
Right? But they want to optimize the party. They want to optimize the adventure. They want all their plans to go according to plan, right?
Yep.
And I like these players when they know how to turn it off.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think personally it's okay until they start saying, oh, okay, now, you have to do this, and you have to do that, and you have to, if they're trying to optimize themselves, I feel like that's a power gamer, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And that's totally cool. If they're just being a power gamer that plans, that's fine. But once they're starting to like hound the other people and kind of bring them down, it bogs down the game. It makes it not fun, and that's the point. I think that's like, okay, that's where I draw the line.
Yeah. I'm in the seat right now where I'm forced to be one of those players where, okay, you go do that, because the GM just outright asked me if I'd be the leader of this group, and I said, yeah, sure, I could do it. But now it's come to a spot where there's a couple characters that literally don't do anything unless I tell them, okay, basic, go do that, or something of that sort. And that's in player, that's not in, or that's in character compared to in player. So it's always like, I don't know how to approach this as another player to another player. It's weird for me to go, how do I approach this circumstance? And I've kind of talked to the GM about it, and he's like, yeah, I'm just hoping your character doesn't die. Yeah, that's a... Huh.
So what, you have like station over them or something?
Yeah, because they supposedly all joined my group, like my company in quotation, and they all in theory work under me. But a lot of them have their own personalities and their own actions, and I'm okay with like sending them to do their own things. I'm fine with that completely. But I'm almost acting as the NPC that gives you quests, or the person that walks you into the forest, going, "Oh, we must go north." I in some ways feel like that NPC.
Right. You are Roy Greenhilt. So, yeah, all right. So, the specialist, I had one of these slip into my game. I'm like, how did you get in here? And the person that wants to play the same character, no matter what, and what ends up happening is it's like it's super weird. And it's like probably they've never been able to play it in another game, or it's never gone the way they wanted or whatever. But so I had, again, last campaign, the one who cried, right? It was her character, and she had like this just big, long, elaborate, like wacky thing. And I'm like, you know what? Yes, sure. And it ended up playing out in a different way. Hopefully she got some resolution out of that, but I don't know. What do you feel like? What I like to do when I have a session 0, I have everybody talk about. I'm like, don't make a character. We are making a character together. What do you guys want to do? And we talk it out. I feel like that's the best route to go, because what happens
Absolutely.
is specialist or not, right? End up having people that are just like, okay, and they all roll up, and like 3 of them are rogues, right? And or not saying that that's even bad, but some people don't like that. They don't want to be like, no, if there's another rogue, no. Or if there's another this. And I get that, because people want to feel special. They want to feel like they're the only one in the party that can do like this cool thing. But I think the specialist is different, right? The same one every time. I don't know. Before I say more, what do you think?
I haven't yet run into one of these people, because I have either most of my players have little to no experience with D&D, experience with RPGs, but not D&D itself. They have a premise for a character and they want to build it, and then they can do the backstory stuff, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine by me. They pass it along, see if it's okay with me. I have one character that could sort of be considered a specialist, but I wouldn't even say he fits under that bar because we're in the same universe, and where his character ended off kind of makes sense that he joined in this campaign. Like he's attached to the Raven Queen, and the Raven Queen kind of plopped him out somewhere beforehand, and then the Raven Queen's going to plop him out again, and going to be in a similar circumstance to the original, his original showing up. So I'm like, yeah, I'll let you play that character again. But
Right.
I wouldn't really consider that a specialist,
It depends. I think less mechanics and more like, so kind of, not really a specialist, but kind of. So it's not just about playing like the one character that they always want to play. It's also about like the real weird, right? So a second player in my last campaign, he's very big into the anime scene. He's very big into like JRPGs and stuff like that. And he's like, it's cool because he's describing all this stuff. I'm like, oh, look at this guy, he's cool. But I do see some of that from time to time, Shadzar, where it's, they want to build like this thing, like this is the thing they want to do, and it's like D&D is not really made to accommodate that. It's a very, I don't want to say specific experience because you can do a lot with the system, but a lot of times I think it has boundaries at some point, and not all that crap from Japan always fits in.
Yeah, that's true. I actually, thinking about that, there's a player in where I'm that leader position. He's one of the people that they don't do anything in combat unless I tell them to, sorta. But I don't know what deal was worked out between the GM, but now at some point he can summon, in quotation, his father, and he swaps spots with this monk character I also played as a player with, and that player's level 3. We're still level 2 characters. So I'm sitting there going, okay, we took a character that's very funny roleplay wise and now made him a very prominent character in combat. And it's the exact same character, exact same storyline, the exact same subclass as the one I knew.
Right. Yeah, so he's trying to resurrect, kind of.
Yeah. And to me that doesn't make sense, but I don't have a choice over that.
Some people have a hard time letting go, or they just want to...
That's true.
I think what's hard, too, most campaigns go from, like, level 1 to level 5. Or, like, level 1 to, like, level 7, right? Or 3 to 7, or whatever. Somewhere in that range. It's usually under level 10. And then they stop.
Yeah.
Because, like, we told a cool story, and sometimes it's hard to go from, like, this arc to this other grand arc. And
yeah.
I think this is just my hypothesis, is that those people have, they just haven't got that experience to go from 1 all the way up, and I feel like if they had the special group, the one or group of players out there that's like, yes, we all want these Japanese characters or whatever, which is fine if that's what you want to play, but all the way up to level 20 and like have some closure, because I think like when you have some more mature role playing, right, the beginning is glorified version of yourself. I always played a barbarian up until a certain point, and then I shifted. I'm like, oh, I want to kind of play a bard, I want to kind of play a wizard, I want to kind of play, and then it's not just classes, right? You go from from here's what I'm always gonna do, and you branch out and you try something new, and it's classes, and you're like, oh, I'll play around with a different race. I'll do this. Maybe I'll add a funny accent if you're into that. Maybe not. Or having. Eventually, it becomes actually role playing. You're like, this is a person I am not. I mean, clearly, yes, I'm not a dwarf barbarian in real life anyway. But like maybe outside of just what I wish I wanted to be, it's actually taking a step into somebody else's mindset.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's kind of transitioning from there is, so there's the actor player type, and I personally, I love these. I am one of these.
Yes.
I like to do a funny voice. I like to do. I don't care what the mechanically optimal thing is. I want to do like, this is what my character would do, and not in an assholey way, because I feel like sometimes people make just like dick characters and like, well, that's what my character would do. And it's like, you made your character. You made him be an asshole. You could just you could have said that guy is not an asshole.
Yeah.
Yes. No, I don't. You tricked me. Maybe I do like to run around in loincloths.
Hey, you already admitted the underwear thing earlier.
Hey, don't. They weren't here. Not all of them were here for that. So.
What? I don't know what you're talking about, man.
So, I think a lot of GMs end up being actors because, go figure. But yeah, probably my favorite kind of player is an actor, or has pieces of that, because that's the sort of game I like to play, right? When I can, I try to remove the dice where possible and have human interaction, but that's just me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I'm in the same boat you are, where I take that actor seat way too often, doing funny voices, adding a little personality trait. And if I was doing more table to table things, I'd probably do, facial twicks or stuff like that. Absolutely love having those players at the table. I like also being around those players if I'm one. It makes it a lot more fun for me.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes it's, I will say, sometimes there's a limit, right? Going back, I keep mentioning this person that was the RPer back in the other one that cried. She was like a little too over the top because she like hated combat, and all she wanted to do was RP, and I like RP, but there's got to be a balance somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So, but the other players kept her on track, so it was good. So I don't know if I had all actors, I don't know. I feel like that would be a little too much, unless they all had.
That would be interesting.
If I had over the top, like her level, RP acting all the time.
Yeah.
But no, I love them. My favorite is, I like when they're, I don't have to prompt them. They're like, and then I who's good at this? Pearly Whirly in chat. He's good at this. He'll be like, and then I swing my hammer over my head and I whoop-shaw and I do the thing, and and it's cool. It's like, oh yeah, man, like this is going on. This is going down.
Yeah.
And I like when people do that and I don't have to prompt them. I find like that's fun because if I'm always the person to do it, then it's like it kind of gets a little stale, So I feel like it mixes it up when other people are doing it. Plus the actor players, I feel like, tend to take action into their own hands.
They do.
They tend to be like the Anyway, so kind of also similar is the storyteller. So actor focuses on like what their character would do and their what they would do. Storyteller is more like they just want the story to be dramatic. They want it to come out cool, and they don't want any of the rules getting in the way. They're like the polar opposite of like the tactician or the power gamer, right? They're the I feel like a lot of actors and storytellers kind of have the same traits, but they're like, I want this really dramatic thing to happen, and I'm going to like risk my life to do this. That's what I find like a lot is they're always these kind of players, like they're always risking their life. It's like
Mhm.
every opportunity is like a pack of bees comes in, whoosh, rip off my shirt and like, come bees to me, come get your honey. Blah, 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 blah. You know, and he dies by a million stings in a pool of his own honey or whatever.
Yeah. I could. Yeah, yeah. They, depending on how they do it, they could do it completely incorrectly. Or if you have a person that is very character story oriented, like this is how I want my character to progress, and this
Yeah.
is kind of how I want my character to progress.
Right. I agree with that. I think in general, people that aren't flexible don't necessarily jive, or they don't always plug into D&D, my sort of D&D games, because everybody runs some
Yeah,
different.
yeah,
But story heavy games, people that aren't flexible, I feel like they don't always succeed in those games. You know, they get frustrated because they're like, oh, I wanted to do the thing, and yes, at level 5 I was gonna be, this was gonna happen, and at level 7 this was gonna happen, and you know, it didn't happen at level 3, and you know what I mean? Like, they're waiting for these plot points, and I think that is perhaps going back to Shadzar's point before, is maybe where they're stepping a little bit too much into DM territory of
yeah,
like,
yeah.
the DM's job is the story and the
Yep.
in the world, right? And it's that action reaction sort of. And I think it's cool to give some of that to the players, but there also has to be some bounds.
Yeah, yeah. I think as the DM, you have to figure out what time it is for the storyteller character to actually become a storyteller.
Right.
Like what I'm doing with my group, when they hit level 3, I ask them, okay, what's your idea for when you get into town? What class are you going? And then they told me, oh yeah, I'm going College of Whispers. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to build this underground like area that's going to try to get this person's information, promising information to them in return. Because I even did like a contested deception and insight check in Insight 1. So my characters actually do get that chance to, oh, we know some bit about this character and we can have some fun with this. Or our warlock, I'm just gonna have a short like conversation with the patron saying, hey, you got your, like, they're getting their pack boon and they went the, oh, was it the tome that allows them 3 cantrips from any class?
Yep.
They're like, oh yeah, these are the 3 I'm gonna pick, and most of them tied into stuff that happens. So like they're picking friends, healing word, and I can't remember the third, druidcraft. And healing word and friends makes perfect sense for friends because she already tries to be the cutesy character that loves everybody, and she's the tiefling warlock. And then
Right.
healing word because she's been the only character that's been downed and knocked unconscious. So me as the patron, who is her mother, because roleplay stuff and backstory stuff, you know. But the mother is oh wait, not healing word. What did I don't remember what she picked then. Oof, I don't know what she picked. Something.
Maybe it was like spare the dying.
Maybe it was something that bards get. I think it's bards. Who knows? I'm not going to question things right now, but she's going to have a conversation with her mother. Her mother has seen what's happened and knows what's happened, so it makes sense that her mother would give her these spells that fit these circumstances.
Right. Yeah,
And
again, tying it back into the story, right? Making those mechanics of the game kind of plug in and be less mechanical, if you will, and more like, here, this is why, you know?
Yeah. I like having reasons that, oh, I want to multi-class into Warlock. Why would I multi-class into Warlock? Besides stats, right?
Right.
What character aspect or something, you know?
Some sort of incentive. Or not necessarily an incentive, but some consequence story-wise of there's some sort of causality, like, why do you have this? You have this because of this in your background story, etc. Here's an event.
Yeah. I love those little things, and I I think the aspect that me and like my GM, we every session we give out something called like a world point or a plot point, and it lets them do that kind of co-GM seat. It's worked well with our players. They like doing little creation stuff. So for some of my characters, I had this order established, and they were part of this order, and they're like, okay, Tracken, I want to take my plot point and I want to have it so this order started through horrific means, meaning they like let a town die or something like that. And they're like, oh, okay, I can work with that. It's just I don't let them just go, okay, this is what I'm doing, it's now canon. It's more, yeah, let me think that over, see if it works, and if it does, then yeah, thumbs up.
Absolutely. That's the kind of stuff that makes I think that's what makes these sorts of games real cool, is when you can, again, when you can give the players more power. I think it's fun, over their fate, if you will. There's one thing that I had kind of like I was going to do, and then I stopped, and I never picked it back up. Was essentially giving players, I can't even remember, what did I call them? Essentially, if they show up to the session on time, which was to say 5 minutes early, so we start at 8, I would give them a point, and then they could use their points like collectively or whatever, and use it to buy stuff, right? It's like in-game, it's like tailoring their behavior, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
It reminded me of that, and like they could use it to buy like inspiration, or they could use it to buy other things, like perhaps like what I was thinking, I was just gonna set them up with some stronghold stuff, but it didn't work out. But so maybe this campaign, but doing stuff like that where they can save up. So it was called influence, is what I had.
Influence. Ooh.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, that's a cool mechanic.
Yeah, it just reminded me of that. But anyway, no, it's actually a good segue. So the next thing I want to talk about, because it's like 9:44 here, we might run a little longer because we stayed longer. It's up to you. It's however long you have.
Doesn't matter to me.
So, indulging players, right? Like, what do we do? What do we do for our players? Like, and is there too much? Is there like what is, right? Everybody's trying to have fun here, right? At the end of the day, it's, I get a kick out of it, making sure that a cool yeah, that's right. It is an I. I'm typing these on the fly. I'm trying to pay attention to other stuff. Whatever. There you go, buddy. Anyway, that's why I love you. And yeah, so how do you... It was going to be accommodating, but it was too big of a word to put in the banner. So blah, blah, blah. So yeah, in what ways do you indulge players, right? What are some incentives, some rewards, or whatnot?
I think that the basic, reward system in D&D, the inspiration, is a good one, but it's not utilized enough.
Yeah. I think some of the reason, though, is because it's too generic and it focuses on, here are... when do you use the D20 rolls, right? You're going to use them in points when it's like, I'm talking and I'm battling. Yeah. Right? So it's not... You don't flex. It's not flexible enough, I think.
Yeah.
I feel like if you have another system in place, or... I think a lot of what I do, right, is weaving in, if a player's doing well, or if they're doing whatever, right, I give them more opportunities to talk to these people that are connected to them, and they get something from that. Maybe they'll get a discount or a free place to stay, or, right? Yeah. I can seed adventures through that are kind of not necessarily tailored to them, but like I find ways to reward them, and I let them know that, like, you have done I'll let them know behind the scenes, like, hey, like, you're doing a great job, or you're always on time, you're killing it, thanks, man. Sometimes I do the inspiration, like Pearly Whirly helped me out the other day. I was busy, and he helped me find some tools so I could make a map for a battle, and I was like, you know, I rewarded him in that case with inspiration because I knew that he was going to need inspiration for the battle. But
Yeah.
I think at some point, right, it's very easy to get lost in the fact that we're all just trying to have fun, you know, and tell a cool story or kill all the orcs or whatever it is that, and then you forgot. But anyway, and whatever it is, the purpose of your group is, that's what you're trying to do. And sometimes it's easy to be like, I'm building the world, and I'm doing this, and that shop's got to get named, and I got to build this, and I got to go over here and do that. And somewhere along the lines, it's like, oh yeah, we're doing this so everybody can have a good time. And as long as you're not overly like unbalancing the game or making it too easy, I think it's fun to throw in those side, you know, those curveballs every once in a while and be like, yeah, here's this thing you get. Like, who cares if they get a here's like their shop, or here's a thing that they just get if they've done something that's worth rewarding.
Yeah. I think the like world points me and the other GM do. Those are kind of incentive, but I try to keep them completely random so I don't feel like, oh yeah, this player is continuously doing good, I'm just going to continue giving them this point so they can do the world. They're pretty much co-DM.
Right. Well, it depends how you reward. If you're only rewarding actor players, right?
Yeah.
Because you like actor players, you know, then I think that's maybe playing favorites. You know, at which case it's like, if that's all you wanted was actor players, you should go find some more actor players, you know? But but in ways like, if you're engaging in the story, and if you're doing something, for lack of a better term, good, because for some reason I can't articulate what I'm trying to say here, but if you do something good for the collective, for the story, for the group, for this and that, whether it could be like, you know, here's the tactician, and they decided against everything, every fiber of their being, they did what their character would do instead of, you know, the optimal thing. That would be like, maybe I would reward that, you know, because I knew like that player in particular, it took a lot for them to do that, more so than like the dude that does it every day.
Yeah. Maybe I don't have enough like, kind of sitting and think about it, I don't really have a way to reward players for like sticking to character or, you know, doing things out of the box if they're like a tacticianer that goes, you know what? I can't do this strategy because I'm scared of water, right? Something that would completely fit their character. I don't think I have a way to reward that, and I'm now thinking about that. Right.
Perhaps maybe over time, right? So you can reward the player and you can reward the character. You can do both.
Yeah, and
so in a situation like that, you can reward the character by saying, maybe not that they're not afraid of water anymore, but they face their fear and, you know, they're more willing. Like, they've grown as a character, you know, and they can now go, you know, knee deep in water and be okay. Or some sort of, you can give them mechanics, or you can give them this and that goes with it and reward them in that way. Sometimes if it's a really big event and it's really good on their part, one thing I like doing is like blessings from the gods. Like, yeah, you have a permanent like +1 to your main stat because you do this thing. Or you have one thing that I took from Matt Colville that he suggested was just steal some of the abilities from 4th edition and just give them to the players, you know, as like, here's just this ability that you can use once every long rest, or you can say it's a spell and it uses up a spell slot but it does something custom, or here's here's maybe it's even another class ability because whatever, you know, something that's like, you did a thing and you got this, but not necessarily just feeling like, I just felt like handing you that. It's like they feel like they earned it.
Yeah.
I think that's the kind of the key, is like not just handing it to them for no reason.
Yeah. I like that one.
Right.
I think I enjoy doing homebrew stuff quite a bit. So that's including like custom spells and custom weapons, which like you can easily do on D&D Beyond, which is the reason I like it, because I can give a custom weapon that has a custom spell built into it.
Right.
And
Oh,
so I did that like first couple sessions. They found a sword that had some special properties to it, and I had a storyline marked for that sword because it was a sentient weapon. And oh man, that was a like it wasn't really that any specific character earned that weapon. It's just they did something that was worthwhile. So they all had access to this weapon, and I was going to base it on whoever picked it up.
Right. Like, kind of like it takes abilities depending on the kind of person that wields it, or just
yeah,
you just wanted it to be more pertinent to a specific whoever picked it up.
It would be a little bit of both. It would have been a little bit of both. Our rogue picked it up, and so it was a short sword, so that kind of limited a couple people. Like we had a paladin who wouldn't really have been interested in it. Oh man, if that paladin got that weapon, oof, that would have been interesting. But yeah, it just so happened that our rogue picked it up, and he was having some interesting interactions with that.
Oh yeah, I love. Before I get too off track here. Yeah. So indulging the players. So, is there ever a time where when are you being too accommodating? When does it negatively affect the game? Does it negatively affect the game?
I think it can, depending on. So let's say a character. This is a really off-topic conversation that I've had, like a random miscellaneous conversation with somebody about how they wish that you could multi-class into different parts of Wizard and get different schools of magic as your major. Let's say I allowed that. That would be incredibly dangerous because of how scary those, even the initial starting abilities would stack. If you just allow this one player to go, okay, I want to play this homebrew race, and the others are like, what? You didn't let me play a homebrew race. You know, you have to look at the entire scope of, okay, if I let one person do this, then everyone has the option to do this. Or everyone should have the option to do this.
That is kind of interesting, though. I feel like I try as much as I can. I try. Yikes, old people. Hey, no, I've played with many older generation. They're fun. They're fun shit, man.
Yeah.
They're definitely a little bit of a different breed than the modern GMs, I think. But that's not a bad thing. It's fun. I really like playing like the real difficult old school, older editions of D&D and other role-playing games where it's like all the battle was like getting your treasure out.
Yeah.
So it's like I gotta get my 10-foot pole, gotta get all the hirelings, and crap load of cards. You have to have like a whole convoy outside the dungeon and buy them all, oatmeal and shit, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm kind of more of a yes. I try and do the yes when I can, as long as it makes sense.
Yeah.
I try, rather than be a no man, I try and say, what can I do to be yes? And if I can't think of anything, then it's a no.
Yeah. I had a player that wanted to play a Warforged, and Warforged was the one race out of every single selection, by the way, that I had open to them. I'm like, I am very sorry I have to say no to this. Like, I felt bad because legitimately there was no reason for me to introduce that race story-wise, because this is a giant world that I'm creating compared to, stuff exists. No. That was the only time I think I ever had to be the actual no person. Otherwise, I tried my best to be the whole, let's figure out a way we can work with this or work around this.
Absolutely. So at the end of the day, we want to cast fireballs. We want to do all these badass stuff. We want to be,
Yeah.
you know, anime characters in D&D or whatever the hell that we want to be, right? But I think the key, the thread that ties everything together is as long as you, the GM, is okay with it, and as long as the group is okay with it, anything goes, right?
Yeah.
Anybody who
Yeah.
doesn't like it can shove off, right? It's as long as you guys are having a good time and you like it, then you do whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
You can
I agree.
you can play a game where players don't have any say. You can play a game where players have more say. It really depends on your preferences, man. That's what I think.
Yep. It does. That's what makes the modern era very fun for GMs. There are just so many types out there, and D&D has so many outsource or outlets that you can find it now that you can just, you know, if you're interested in D&D, you're like, bam, I'm playing D&D now.
You don't have to use D&D. That's right. There's a bunch of other systems.
Oh yeah.
If you want to make an anime character, play Champions. It's way better to make those wacky kind of characters. My buddy's actually playing My Hero Academia. He's running a game that is that, but in Champions. It's real cool. I haven't played. I just shoot him villain ideas.
It's really funny as my other GM is actually doing a My Hero Academia campaign as well. He built all the rules in D&D itself, just adapted it.
Yeah, I think Shadzar has a point, and yeah, and you, Pearly. So D&D is super popular because of all the podcasts, right? And
Yeah.
it's kind of been the poster child of tabletop, right? So when a lot of people think of it, they think D&D. So I think by default it's just very popular, and
Yeah.
that's why it's a go-to. Some people just they play D&D and they're like, I'm never gonna play anything else, you know. And then there's some people that are just like, I think what I end up doing is I play D&D because it's so easy to find people to play D&D, especially now with the internet, and it's like picking up, and you know there's all these great virtual tabletops and blah blah blah. But I agree though. I think there are better systems for doing specific things, you know, and GURPS. Oh, GURPS.
Yeah. Oh man, I still think I have GURPS printed out in one of these notebooks nearby. Was it? Oh, what's that stand for? GURPS.
General Ultra Role Playing System or something. General.
Yeah, like General Universal Role Playing System. Man, that GURPS.
Right in the GURP. Right in the GURPS.
Right in the GURP. Man.
Traveler. You know, I've heard good things of Traveler. I've never played Traveler, so I don't have a comparison. Maybe that's bad. Maybe we'll play it. Maybe we'll play it now. If anybody wants.
I have a DM and a player's handbook for a game set that I've been wanting to play for such a long time. Numenaria.
I was just gonna say. I was literally just going to say that's a game that since it came out I kind of wanted to play but never found an excuse. Maybe we should do something. Maybe we should run a one shot. I've never played it. I know how it works. I've just never played it. So.
Those rules are so difficult for me to understand. I'm like, what the hell is a pool? I draw from the pool to make my rolls easier.
Yeah.
What?
Oh. I will say though, have you ever played Shadowrun?
I have not.
Oh. I'm sorry to people who love Shadowrun, but that system, I can't. It's so. Talk about tedious. But anyway.
Oh,
so,
really? Okay.
Yeah. I agree, Shadzar. Sometimes it's hard to break out. Sometimes it's hard to break out of the D&D. it's so popular, and some people are content with D&D, and they're like, I never want anything else. But I don't know. Maybe that's the thing you can do. What do you think, Shadzar? What should we try? Do you have anything in particular? It's all about
Teach them.
Teach them. I know. What do you
Yeah,
suggest?
that's true.
Throw out a couple of suggestions, Shadzar. I know, Pearly, you got a couple. What is that other game you're playing? What's the goal? I don't know. What's the goal? Do you want to play? I have no freaking idea. Maybe we'll run some one shots in something that's different than D&D. You know?
Yeah. Like I have all the books for oh man, just looking over. So I have Numenaria. I have the Call of Cthulhu stuff. And I have something called Haven Shield, which is very like loose leaf paper DM guide. So I'm very curious on reading through it, but
right.
There's so many systems out there.
So maybe we'll do that. We'll hold on, let me add this to my notes here. Hold on, I gotta grab my notebook.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll write that down, Chadzar. I'll get like whatever, maybe a half a dozen roleplay systems, and we'll go through.
Yeah. Oh, what is that? What is oh, is it called like Vampire Masquerade or Masquerade of the?
Yeah. We could play some Vampire. I've played it before. I've never run it, but I played it. It's fun. There's Vampire, World of Darkness. There's Champs. There's we could just go back to the GURPS. There's Traveler. There's
Vampire the Masquerade. 5th edition
sucks. Is it Numenaria? I thought it was Numenera. Maybe not. I don't know.
Numenera. Numenaria is how I pronounce it because I'm weird.
No, that's fine. I was like, maybe I've been saying it wrong this whole time.
Dude, I've never heard it pronounced by anyone else, so I have no idea.
Mage the Ascension. Boom, that's a good game. That would be a good one for the review. We were talking about it a little bit last talk show. Werewolf. All right.
Oh, you can see. Oh, okay. I didn't know that there was an actual selection on Twitch for Numenera. Numenara.
So yeah, we'll check it out. There's also what is the one that just came out by Paizo? Starfinder.
Oh yeah, I have the books for that too.
I haven't played Starfinder yet.
That legitimately, the rules look like it's a space D&D. Like races get certain stats. The only difference I've noticed with races is they start with health compared to rolling for health based on class. And then also spaceships. That's another very interesting bit to add.
All right. Yeah, I mean there are plenty of systems out there, but that'd be kind of an interesting thing. Maybe I'll get together some people, some other streamers or whatever, and maybe I'll just do it myself with some people that are interested. Maybe I'll run some one shots. Have some people that know the system run some one shots for me, and I'll just play. That'd be cool to be a player. Oh, to be a player again.
Good days.
Just for once, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that suggestion. I think I'll do some review, and that'll be one of the coming episodes. Give me some time to actually dig in.
Yeah. Shedzar just said Starfinder's on Twitch too.
Shadows of the Demon Lord.
I have a great RPG. It's called Shut the Fuck Up, Please.
Oh, wait. What is it? You got beef? You got beef with Shadzar? He's my man.
Man, the beef in chat is not okay.
Yeah, Shadzar's my man. We welcome different opinions here.
We like them.
We're talking. Or not?
If
Totally,
if
right?
we just agreed on everything, it would be a very boring conversation.
Yeah, right.
Oh man, what do you think of trees? Trees are cool. Yeah, I get them.
I like trees. They leave.
They're
Yeah.
green. Yeah. You know, they have leaves. Some of them
Just
drop their leaves.
just a bunch of saps. Those trees.
Oh, what guy?
Oh. All right. Uh, shit, man. All right. Well, it it is 10:07. I feel like we talked about everything we're gonna talk about. So, um, yeah, man. It was a really good time talking with you. So
Yeah, it was a lot of
this,
fun.
So this guy, Trakin, Trakin. I think he's got an underscore in his Twitch after that.
Yep.
If you want to throw up any links you got in the chat, so we know where to find you. And yeah, so check him out, guys. And if you have any suggestions, like our wonderful friend Shadzar, go ahead. You can join the Discord. You can let me know. You can email me. You can do any of these things on the bottom. And yeah, so it was really nice to talk to you, Trakin, and hope to have you on the show again sometime.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'd love to come back.
All right, guys. Well, keep on keeping on. See ya next Monday.
Adios, everyone.